man. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
Welcome back for another weekend review with FantasyFling at DFS Army. We are looking at week 9, the Millie Maker recap, a little bit of afternoon slate action, and as always, going to look at some MME strategy of DFS pros. And no better week than this week to look at the MME strategy of DFS pros, as we have a DFS pro who took down the Millie Maker. So we're going to get into that, but before that, I got something even better that we are going to start with. We had a lot of takedowns. It was a big week over with DFS Army. Start out with Big Joe. He had won $300 or $300, but I mean, look at the lineup, right? This was a really good lineup, 223 points. So really good, 230, I think 240 was like top 5 in the Millie Maker. So this was an exceptional lineup for Big Joe. Next, we got King of the Beach. Our boy Sox Fever, King of the Beach ticket, won $27,000 for that ticket. Excellent takedown. Small stuff, we like that too, right? Showdowns, won a showdown, but split with, quite a few other people. So, but whatever, that's how showdowns are. It's still a takedown nonetheless. So good for him. I went back a little bit too far here, but so King of the Beach, Steven in the Mini Max showdown. We got Nitro with first place, $2,000, 188 points. Awesome work, Nitro. Team Bruce, another 200 plus lineup. Just some great ROI, $135, 1,600 back. Gosh, take that all day, every slate, that kind of ROI. And then we're going to end with Geek Tiers. This is something I've started dabbling in. DFS Army has been getting more and more into it, but obviously it's been a thing for a while. But Geek MME'd it, took it down. CJ Stroud, Lamb, Adams, Jacobs, Sam Howell, Nico Collins, Mark Cooper, and Rashad White. And helmets up top, helmet after helmet. Geek, 2 of the top 3 spots with the takedown. And then B. Larch, whatever. He got it. 4th place, 185 points. Great work. Love seeing those helmets up top. So, parade of wins. Good job for everyone over at DFS Army who crushed it this week. And then we're going to go to the DraftKings Millie Maker. So this is obviously something that we start the show with every week. So we had Utica, one of the DFS GOATs. A lot of people have considered this guy as one of the best DFS pros of all time, arguably the best of all time, and certainly solidified his case for one of the greatest with this Millie Maker takedown, the large field Millie Maker. A lot of pros have won the high stakes, smaller field Millie Maker, but to beat out almost 200,000 people is something different. And really, everything that we're going to look at in this lineup, it all came down to the game stack between the Houston Texans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So right away, you see CJ Stroud. You also see Tank Dell and Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz. So Stroud plus 1, 2, 3, and a Rashad White bring back. So this was one of those stacks that when I look at this on this show, we look at a lot of MME pros, DFS pros, what their MME strategy is. We will consistently see QB +3 stacks. And more times than not, it is a losing battle to do that. And specifically a large field GPP of that size, like you have to hit with the payout structure as bad as it is for the Millie Maker. Like you're playing for first place. And when you have a lineup that's like QB +3, you're going to lose more times than not, unless that offense really goes off. So you're risking losing all of your entry fees by having QB +3. Now, they have a combination. So as we'll see, it's rarely ever just QB +3, but they will have a good combo of QB +2, QB +3, even some QB +1. But just know this is just kind of overall general strategy. How do you attack large field GPPs? How do you leverage the field? This is one of the best ways to leverage the field, but can you stomach the loss as well? Utica certainly could, and he knew how to leverage the field to be able to take down a contest of this size. So QB +3, Stroud, 44 points, Tank Dell, 32 points, Noah Brown, 30 points, Dalton Schultz, 31 points, and Rashad White, almost 28 points. Now, this is something, the QB +3, a little excessive for most, right, to stomach. Most people aren't going to build this way. But let's be real, like this is a stack that we were on at DFS Army. CJ Stroud was a guy that we were on. Tank Dell and Nico Collins were guys that we were on. Noah Brown was a guy that we were on. We like Ferguson as well. You know, a lot of different ways to get different on this slate. And with Noah Brown and Ferguson being kind of the pivots off of the chalkier Dell and Nico Collins. But this was a really good matchup in a good game environment that we liked. A lot of the DFS pros liked. So there's certainly merit to playing in this stack, but I'd say he definitely went heavier with it than most people will, and certainly reap the rewards. So total stacking points, 166 points across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. So really good. And it was contrarian. So this is kind of what I go back to with this entire lineup. It scored the points. It was contrarian. So, you know, it had the ceiling that it needed. It had the ownership leverage that it needed. And it also really smashed from a value standpoint, as we're going to get into next. But you'll see here, this lineup, this is what we say, eat good running back chalk. Or, you know, just good matchup chalk, like a stud like CeeDee Lamb in that matchup, 35%. You get Josh Jacobs, 17%. So that was some good running back chalk. Rashad White, not quite chalky, really at 10%, but it just goes to show you can eat some of this chalk and get different in your stack, which is something that we review a lot on this show. And this is what DFS pros do. I'm going to find a contrarian stack. I'm going to eat a lot of good chalk, find a contrarian stack, hope that that stack hits. And I have put myself in a great position to win this thing, which he did. CJ Stroud under 7%, and Tank Dell actually ended up being not chalk at all, at least in the Millie Maker. So under 7%, Noah Brown 3%, Dalton Schultz 5%. So really good lineup, kept the overall ownership at 113%, and just great leverage plays. And they were all in that stack. And then when we look at value, like I said, this lineup really just hit all the important aspects that you need to win a large field GPP. And value, you see it crazy value with this stack, because Bijan Robinson only was 1x. Like if you have a $6,100 player and they get 1x, like you should pretty much be done. Like that should be it for your lineup. Well, with the stack, it made up for the dud of Bijan. So Stroud 7x, Dell 6x, Noah Brown 9x, Schultz 7x, and then Rashad White even almost hit 5x. So the entire lineup got over 5x, and just from those huge outliers across multiple positions, it carried Bijan Robinson really across the finish line here. And the takeaway for me with this lineup, they scored at 250 points. It was a low Vegas total week. So the fact that this lineup was able to get there, to me, it proves that you can still, even if it's a low scoring slate, as far as the Vegas line projections go, if it's projected to be low scoring, if you can identify, a couple game environments where it can really go off, and you build accordingly for those game environments to go off, you can still really leverage the field, and even in a lower scoring week, score 250 points. And win this large field GPP. So great stuff here. We're going to go ahead and look at some of the MME strategy. We might as well start out. Let's start out with a couple guys, actually. So we'll finish on a positive note for the Millie Maker. But one guy that had a lot of lineups in the top 100. Wanted to, I know this guy's a DFS pro, and I kind of wanted to go over his builds real quick because he got 8th place. He got 14th place. He got 74th place, 104th place. So really put like 4 lineups in the top, just outside, the top 100. So really good. And 2 lineups in the top 15. So this was his top lineup: CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, and Rachaad White. So quite similar to the winning build. He also had Bijan. So very similar, only a couple differences to the main build that we just looked at. Had AJ Brown in this one versus CD Lamb and David Njoku. So you really needed the 30-point performance from Ferguson. Actually, he had CD Lamb and AJ Brown. So, this was a really good lineup too. Had he made a different decision than Bijan, wouldn't have won it, but would have got pretty close to tying Utica that top spot. But we're going to look at some of his lineups here and just overall exposures. So he had 8 quarterbacks. Every lineup that he had was a QB +2 with a bring back, at least a QB +2. So CJ Stroud, Dale, Schultz, Evans, bring back. Same thing here. This one had Rachaad White bring back. I was like, make it a liar out of me. Rachaad White. Nico, Tank Dell, Rachaad White. So, it was a good week to do that. But this is, again, one of those things where can you stomach playing this way? Because most of the time, most people will lose their ass playing this way. QB +2 and a bring back, unless you nail the right stack. So, a lot of Stroud, though, and let's go ahead and take a look at exposures. So he actually, when we're going to get to Utica's exposures, you're going to be surprised. Utica did not have like a ton of Stroud. So AJ Smizzle or Al, is it? No, it's Al Smizzle. Had Sam Howell as his top exposure and Dak, but really was on to a lot of the guys. These were a lot of the guys we were on at DFS Army, actually. CJ Stroud, Hurts, Dak. We had some Carr. I personally liked Sam Howell on this slate just because he'd been doing well. And, did pretty decent. So Howell was his 2 highest exposures with Dak and Howell. And then Stroud, Hurts, and Carr were just under that. So he had 8 quarterbacks. So his pool was going to be quite a bit smaller than we're going to see with the next guy. A lot of exposure to a few choice backs. Ramondre Stevenson, Bijan, and really Bijan is what crushed him. If he had just gotten off Bijan, or probably just been even with the field and pushed some of that ownership to, more of Rachaad White, more of Jacobs, he might have even got there. So Ramondre had a good day. So did Jacobs, and Rachaad White, but just too much Bijan. Was just a little over on Singletary and Jerome Ford, little under on Kamara, but yeah, if you probably would have faded Kamara and Bijan, who knows, might have took it down. And then 3 wide receivers over 30%: Dotson, AJ Brown, McLaurin, Amari Cooper. yeah, didn't have a ton of Tank Dell. Didn't have, it was really just exclusively to Stroud stacks. Had a lot of Demario Douglas, but was even with the field there. Nico, same thing, a little under on Nico. And then, yeah, only 3% Noah Brown. So, honestly, I think for the exposures that he had, really did about as good as he could have possibly hoped. And Njoku, Goddard were the highest. Goddard gets hurt. Joke had a pretty good game. Ferguson and a little bit of Schultz. So a little bit there. Indy, New England, Las Vegas. Indy was really good. That certainly helped his day a bit. And then just being under on the Giants D, which they were in a good spot, but that's kind of why it's just plus EV to fade the. Yeah, Indy had 26 points, so that's something that saved like all those Bijan lineups. So really good there. But yeah, this one of those things where it's plus EV to just fade the chalk defense. But I mean, guys, this is pretty easy, right? We have arguably the number one DFS player of all time, wins the Millie Maker, and by the way, also MME'd it. So we are going to obviously look at his exposures. And we're going to be pretty heavy on just overall builds, too. That's something I wanted to look at. So we got CJ Stroud. Now, believe it or not, and this is something that we do, one of our new settings so we have with the Domination Station, DFS Army's Optimizer, is to kind of just get the perfect having the perfect feature to stack games but not to force stack. So not to have all QB +3, not to have all QB +2. Let's get some QB +1 in there. Let's kind of let the optimizer do its thing. But how do we finagle that so that we get a good combination? And you're going to see here with Uticow, QB +3 took it down, but he didn't build all QB +3 lineups. Okay. He built a combination. So we got CJ Stroud. Obviously, this is a winning lineup. Plus Tank Dell, plus Noah Brown, plus Dalton Schultz. And one thing I want to talk about here is just overall lineup construction. One thing to keep in mind, this is so much easier to do this kind of stack when all the guys are cheap. So you get a good game environment. You get a great young quarterback who you believe in, and you could see that ceiling. You could see him ascending, and you get some really talented wide receivers like wide receivers like Tank Dell and Noah Brown. And then you got Dalton Schultz, like a good tight end. These guys are all cheap. So this is much easier to do than AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, right? Because for them to have tournament winning value, they have to score, 50, 60 points to be able to pay off a Jalen Hurts, an AJ Brown, a Devonta Smith, a Dallas Goedert. So this is a much easier task. Just keep that in mind. Pricing does factor into this. We just looked at their overall value, 7x, 9x, it was crazy. It was off the charts. So, but nonetheless, QB +3, and then, so we've got running back in the flex here. So a good amount of running back. I think that was kind of a theme with a lot of his lineups. Now, for example, here we have Dak plus CD Lamb plus Tony Pollard. This was his second lineup that scored 210. His place 210th. So really, it was just a one lineup that got there. Dak, Lamb, Pollard with an AJ Brown bring back, but QB +2, one bring back. Now we got Stroud +2, Dell, Noah Brown, and who bring back? Where's the Tampa Bay player? There isn't. So bring backs weren't forced. Stroud, plus Nico Brown, K. Dotton, and Rashad White. So that was QB +2 with 2 bringbacks. So you can kind of see he's not really setting rules to force bringbacks or to force stacks. They're just happening or they're not happening. Stroud, Collins, Brown, and K. Dotton as a bringback. There's a secondary stack here with Barkley and Giants D, and obviously Saquon is in the flex. So running back in the flex. This one is Dak and Lamb. So this was a QB +1. Dak and Lamb, and $1 got a bring back. So we've now seen a combination of QB +1, QB +2, and QB +3. And let's go ahead and take a look at his exposures. Now, this is something that I've seen before studying the MME strategy. I think Megan Joy. What I remember from her is she had won the Millie Maker last year, later part of the season, I think, and she had 1% Joe Burrow and won the Millie Maker. Now, CJ Stroud, not near the top here. Jordan Love, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr. Highest 3 own quarterbacks. CJ Stroud, 5%. Was actually under the field on CJ Stroud. So, like 7.5 lineups, more or less, of CJ Stroud. 5% of 150. But when you're playing 150, that's enough, right? You think about, like, if you were to put 5 lineups in the Millie Maker and they were all CJ Stroud, like, you would feel pretty good about your chances. They were all CJ Stroud stacks. Maybe not winning it, but at least, placing the top 100, doing really well. Specifically, if you had variations of those, if you had Stroud, and you had a Nico Collins and a Tank Dell, and Tank Dell and a Noah Brown, like if you just had 5 different variations, like you would feel pretty good about that lineup. So just shows you don't always need to have the perfect exposure. You just have to have enough and enough of the right core plays. So I think that's kind of where the rest of the lineup comes in together. When you think about overall construction, like who are my guys that I really want to be on this week? Like who are guys that are in good spots? They project well. They're not too chalky. Like I want to take some shots here. Rashad White, he was projected as the chalk, but guess what happened? Singletary became a starter. He was 4,300. Chuba Hubbard became a starter. He was 5,000. That moved some of the Rashad White chalk onto those guys. And he ended up actually not being high owned at all. Pretty crazy. Josh Jacobs, this was a great spot. The last time Aiden O'Connell was the starter, Josh Jacobs had got a lot of carries. He got like 17 carries and 11 targets. So he got almost 30 opportunities. So the team was gone. You get the new interim coach bump. They hate their old coach. They got a rookie quarterback who really can't throw. They're going to lean on the run. Josh Jacobs smashed. Tony Pollard, to me, this is just a leverage play, knowing who Utica is. Like you see a guy projected for low ownership and a high scoring game total. Yeah, leverage play. There's a lot of chalky pieces in there, right? So that makes sense. Ramondre Stevenson, I liked him too. Thought he projected well. Kind of crazy. Bijan Robinson, he'd come down in price, so he's only 6,100. So I get it. 31%. So, still was able to win the Millie Maker despite having 31% Bijan Robinson and actually having Bijan in the winning lineup. Just nuts. Saquon, I think that was a great play. So was Jonathan Taylor. Those just didn't work out. Bad game script for Saquon. DeVito just tanked the offense. So, and then under on Kamara. So, and really sharp. I am going to be under on Kamara the rest of the year. In fact, I think I got a proposal out. I think I might have just traded away Kamara for Trevor Lawrence. And I mean, it's just, there's the Taysom Hill thing. And then now there's also Jamal Williams eating into his carries. Kendra Miller's getting receptions. The volume's not there. But speaking of New Orleans, Olave catches a touchdown. That was a great play. So, being on a lot of the right plays that smashed, obviously, kind of just had enough that when the CJ Stroud lineup circulated through with that stack, boom, hit the milli maker. So Amari Cooper had a good day. AJ Brown got there, close to getting there. Chris Olave, pretty good day at his salary. So, and then, yeah, enough Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Where was he at with Dell? Wow, 1% Dell. I thought he had more Dell. Where's the Noah Brown? Okay, so he was under on Dell, but he had 6% Noah Brown. So he was double the field on Noah Brown. And I'm guessing he was over the field on Dalton Schultz. So yeah, slightly over the field on Schultz. Kyle Pitts, Johnny Smith got his touchdown. Trey McBride, TJ Hawkinson. So yeah, overall thoughts, he had 4 QBs above 12%. 4 QBs above 12%. 15 quarterbacks used. So really, this was kind of like the way I was thinking of attacking the slate. When I kind of looked at it, I was just like, there's so many turds on this slate. There's only a couple guys that are really in a good spot, and the field is probably going to be way over them, being Jalen Hurts, being Dak, and Lamar. I thought, most of the field is going to play those guys. Kind of just made sense to kind of set just a maximum exposure to quarterback at 20% and just cycle through all these guys and hope that you hit the nuts with your core plays in the stack. And I think that is overall what exactly worked out for Utica. Now, he has the bankroll to play around with stuff like that, right? To play 3,500 on this slate. But hey, you can use these principles and attack the mini mass multi-entry and spend $75. At running back, he had 7 running backs between 25 and 43%. So there are really a few guys that he really liked, and, just got a few of these in there that the optimizer probably just gave him. At wide receiver, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys above 20%, 5 guys above 20%. And, no one higher than 30%. So makes total sense, specifically with as many quarterbacks as were used. And then, it was really just high on Kyle Pitts. And defense, here we see it again. Plus EV, fade the chalk D, 2,300. That's certainly a way to leverage field, specifically with there being so many defenses going against rookie quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks. It just made sense to just get exposure to all these guys, right? No defense was really that high owned. So awesome stuff. All right, we're going to wrap this up in a minute. The last thing I want to do is I want to look at the afternoon slate. This is something I've been doing more this year. And yeah, he just crushed it. I mean, just look at this. This is the afternoon slate. This is $2,100 entry. Oh, I have to reload that. But he won that too. But are we surprised? No. $75,000. So it was probably $75,000 at first. I mean, when you say GOAT, like when you have GOAT conversation, this isn't even, obviously this is the afternoon slate, so it wasn't even the same guys that he was on. He had CJ Stroud in the first one, and you got Dak here. So Dak, Lamb, Philly. Yeah, he didn't have any Philly rear back. So Dak, Lamb, Ferguson. And then, this is just something I want to talk to people about a little bit, because people ask me, how do I attack afternoon slate? Couple things. You always have to be willing to play running backs against the defense in afternoon slates, like small slates, like 3 to 4 game slates. Look, you have Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. So you have Saquon going against the defense. You have 2 running backs in the same game. Like the rules you would use on a main slate, forget that. You also have double tight end here. So this one lineup that won $75,000 breaks every main rule slate because every main slate rule, because on a main slate, you're trying to get the optimal lineup. Like there's 13 games, there's 14, whatever it may be. Like it is so hard for you to win by breaking these rules. However, on a 3-game slate, you have to find ways to get different. There's only so many player combinations. The pool is much more condensed, so you have to be willing to break a lot of these rules. So this is kind of the perfect lineup that encapsulates that. So I want to take a look at the one that most people are going to play, because most people aren't going to play $2,100 contests, myself included. Like, I'm not trying to give all my bankroll away. So we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to look at the lineup that won, and then we're going to look at Ricky D, who's another DFS pro and is really good, and kind of see what his MME strategy was for this. So lineup that won the 100,000, 6 lineups entered, 5 uniques. We got Dak, CD Lamb, and Jake Ferguson. So Dak +2. And then AJ Brown was the bring back. Jacobs, Taylor, Wandell, Bellinger, Ferguson. So double tight end. I swear, guys, double tight end rules these slates. Under 290%. You also don't need to worry about spending all your salary. It's kind of on a showdown. You don't need to do it. 191 points. So 5 lineups, smooth, 100K. All right, so let's look at Ricky D's lineup, and we'll finish this up. By the way, if you guys like this kind of content, please hit that like button. Let me know. Comment. Let me know how you did this past weekend. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. And also, if you want to join DFS Army, you see all the winners. A couple of these guys in the weekly winners that we've showed the past couple podcasts have just joined and are winning money. So that could be you too. Use code FantasyFling for 10% off a VIP subscription. Get you access to the coaches' notes, the matchups, the chalkboard, the optimizer, everything. All the VIP only podcasts as well, which we have quite a few of those. So let's look at Ricky D. Now, he did have a lot of duplicates, but nonetheless, he plays top 5. So he had Dak Prescott, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, headed Dak to CD Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and doesn't look to be a bring back. That was his top lineup: Jacobs, Taylor, Jacoby Myers, which is a good play, and Chuba Hubbard. So not doing heavy sacks, QB +2. Not doesn't that's a general strategy. This one, QB +3 to bring back. Kind of all over the board. QB +2 with a bring back. Salt with no bring back. QB +3 with a bring back. +3. Or QB +3. We'll bring back. We got Gallup in the flex. Wide receiver in the flex. Running back in the flex. Wide receiver in the flex. Tight end in the flex. So a little bit of everything. And then we'll kind of look at exposures. And, this is something that I think about specifically when you get down to like a 3-game slate. And I love that I was able to see Ricky D's MME strategy here, is because I feel like I'm more willing on like a 4-game slate to kind of just lock one game in, like 1-game environment, right? He's basically saying I have almost 50-50 Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. A little bit more Dak Prescott than Jalen Hurts, but he's saying this is, if I'm looking at all the other game environments, this is the one that I think is going to be the best. And it was. So I love this strategy, either locking in one quarterback or just, I got 2 quarterbacks in this game. I think one of them is going to be in the nuts. Like let's get high exposure to both of them and just forget about all the other turds, because there certainly was a lot of them. And also think on a slate like this, you have to be 3-game slate, 4-game slates. Like, who's the one player that the field's going to be on? Who's the one stud the field's going to be on that you're okay fading? And if that player goes off, you're going to lose. And if they bomb, if they're a turd on that slate, well, you're going to put yourself to leverage the field and be in the nuts. And he did that with Saquon Barkley, but that wasn't the only one. Josh Jacobs did well. Chuba Hubbard did well. Tony Pollard did not do well. Was over the field there, but I understand the leverage because that's low ownership, right? Swift, he was over there, and he was under on Jonathan Taylor. So if you just swap that Tony Pollard for Jonathan Taylor, probably wins the thing. Still did really well. Did it again, though. Wasn't the only guy that he completely faded. That was a stud. And Devontae Adams, like less than 1% ownership. And I totally understand that play because Aiden O'Connell is a rookie and he can't really throw. So it makes all the sense to me. So Gallup and A.J. Brown, these were the highest owned guys. CD Lamb. So, targeting Dak. We obviously got Jalen Hurts. So, these are going to be the guys that get targeted the most. Devonta Smith a little bit there. And I think you had a lot of Goddard too. Yeah. So A.J. Brown, Goddard were the two biggest exposures, and Jake Ferguson. And then, so QB +1 and QB +2. And mainly one thing I noticed too was when it was a Jalen Hurts stack. So this one is Dak. It was QB +2, QB +3, which you saw a lot. Actually, this was QB +4 even. So Dak being kind of a pure pocket passer, it's going to be QB +1, or QB +2, all the way to QB +4. Let's see the Hurts lineups. Jesus, were there even any? Fantasy Labs lying to us? Okay. Hurts was QB +2, but you didn't see the QB +1 or QB +3 or QB +4. Like, you just didn't see those lineups. That was another one over here. I think I went past it. J. Brown and Goddard. So there were a few QB +3. It just didn't scroll down far enough. So Swift, A.J. Brown, Goddard. So QB +2 and QB +3. But you'll notice all these ones down here were the worst performing ones because Jalen Hurts is more of a QB +1 guy. Sometimes he'll hit QB +2, but he runs a good amount, and the offense is very condensed. So it's very rare that you will see like Jalen Hurts plus A.J. Brown plus Devontae Smith, salary included, running consideration included. You just don't see it as much. So, but yeah, lots to learn there. Like I said, he was willing to fade studs like Barkley, like Adams. Was also willing to play tight end in the flex and double running back against defense. These are all things that you have to allow for in the afternoon slate. But that is going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back obviously next week. Like I said, if you like this kind of content, let me know. Hit that like button, comment. And then, of course, we'll be back next week. We got a lot of shows coming your way. DK First Look, obviously, the game plan, DFS and best bets, all the showdown coverage, all the GPP strategy shows that will be coming your way this week. So stay tuned to the channel, and we'll see you all next week for another week in review.